Anyway, we did it together. Class meeting, class court, self-directed learning, kids creating their own projects around things they were interested in. I kept a bit of mathematics and a bit of English going to keep the head teacher happy, but basically it was about 80% kids working on projects they were interested in. And we had a lot of kids interested in model aircraft, and my tutor, the class teacher, loved model aeroplanes. So he ran a sort of model aeroplane corner of the classroom, these kids, and then we'd go out and it was summer and we'd fly the planes. And then he took some of them sailing. It was just a fantastic experience. And at the end, I got the same sort of A star, A plus for my teaching practice as I had for the for the first one. And then I thought, I'm going to have to work in a primary school because I'm not going to survive in a secondary school. But then I saw a job in a secondary modern school, which was the kind of school kids went to at 11 if they'd failed the 11 plus exam. And the head teacher advertised for someone who wanted to carry on a primary school approach into the first year of the secondary school. So I would teach history, English, geography, social studies and religious knowledge, which was about half the timetable of a class. And I'd virtually be like the primary school teacher. I'd have my own room. The kids wouldn't be moving about from subject to subject. They'd work with me for at least half their school time. I wasn't responsible for maths or science, thank goodness, but pretty much all the rest. And I thought, this might be a chance, because I got offered a job at one or two private democratic schools, alternative schools, and I thought, no, I want to work where the kids like me are, kids from working class backgrounds. Anyway, I got the job, and the head said to me, he said, you can experiment in, he said that the heads of the different departments, the different subjects, want you to teach their stuff. It'll be one teacher, but they want you to teach what they recommend. They're going to prescribe history stuff, geography stuff that they want you to teach. And he sort of smiled and winked at me and said, but if you do a bit of integrated learning, he said, I won't mind. And I thought, wow, that was a green light to do what I wanted to do. So we ran the class as a demand. That's what I wrote the book about, 1H and 2H. We ran the class as a democratic learning community. There was very little content from me. It was mainly kids researching stuff they were interested in and then presenting it to the rest of the class. And they created a class newspaper. Different kids were responsible for different columns. It covered the whole back wall of the class. Eventually it covered just about every wall of class, covered the blackboard because I didn't often use it. And they started creeping up onto the sort of ceiling. It was ridiculous, the amount of writing that was going on, lots and lots of poetry. The drama teacher in the school got involved. The art teacher got involved. He used the ideas of the kids for their work in other subjects. And it was a raving success. The parents were incredibly excited because a lot of the parents had been very disappointed that their kids had failed this exam at 11, especially the more middle class parents who thought that their kids' educational career had more or less come to a stop with failing this exam. So I very quickly had a lot of support from parents, which was delightful. There were 7 other teachers teaching classes of the same age. Some of them looked at what I was doing, especially the younger ones, and thought that looked interesting. Some of them thought it was a bit mad. Some of the teachers of other subjects, more traditional, thought probably I was crazy or dangerous or both. But the head teacher was wonderful. The head teacher absolutely supported it. He said, what I wanted from this was for the kids to recover their confidence after failing this awful bloody exam. And you're doing it. They are recovering their confidence. What parents were phoning him up and saying, how can I get my kid into Derry's class? Because they seem to be doing such interesting things. We had parents come in and teach lessons about their work or about their hobbies because their kids asked them to come. It was just a big success. And I thought probably I'd get fired because some of the other teachers were pretty upset about it. I was very bad at communicating to the other staff, but for heaven's sake, I was a teacher in my first year, and some of these characters have been teaching for 20 years. Who was I to tell them what I thought was good? I thought, I'll just do it and see what happens. Anyway, when we finished the first year, the head said, I want you to take responsibility for all the 7 classes. Well, as we become more democratic in my class through the first year, kids in the other classes began to realise what we were doing, and the kids in my class weren't shy about saying, oh, well, in Derry's class we do this, this, this and this, and in Derry's class we can make the decisions. And some of the other teachers realised what I was up to and said, we like it. And so for the next year, three of my colleagues joined me, and then we appointed 3 more teachers new to teaching. So they all wanted to work in this way. And so we ran the whole year group as a democratic learning community, 230 kids. And we were all timetabled at the same time in 7 rooms that were all down one long corridor. So basically what we did is we just left our doors open and the kids could choose the teacher that was best for the topic that they was interested in. There was a lot of movement going on all the time. It was a fantastic experience, so much so that I ended up writing a book about it because Alfie Kohn in the States had listened to me talk about it. Several people, they said, you're always talking about this class that you had when you were beginning as a teacher. You should write it down while you can still remember it. So I had heaps of notes and I started writing the book. And another quite extraordinary thing happened. On my Facebook appeared this bald-headed bloke, very like you, actually, as a person, very like you. And he said, you won't remember who I am. Now, this class, I had it from 1969 to 1971, and I was writing the book in about 2016. So what's that, 45 years plus? He said, you won't remember me, will you? And I said, well, you're very familiar. Who the hell are you? And he said, I'm Andrew. I was chair of the class meeting in your class 45 years ago. I thought, my God, yes, I can recognise you. It's Andrew, how are you? He said, it's amazing. He said, I just happened to be Googling and I put your name into Google for some reason and I discovered you're still at it. You're wandering about here, there and everywhere talking about these ideas. And he said, I want to tell you, he said, that changed my life, or rather it set my life. And I thought, oh dear, I don't know how much of this I can cope with.